Hey everybody, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding, episode 97. Myself, Big Ron Partlow, my good friend Dusty Hanshaw, and today we have a whole bunch of Instagram Q&As, as well as what's going on in our world, and we got some bodybuilding happening on It's Just Bodybuilding. Dusty, how you doing?
Doing awesome. I'm settled in South Carolina. I had my first workout today in it's not my home gym, but the close gym. You know, there's a close gym to your house that's kind of shitty that you go to because it's closer. That's the one I went to today.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to have a few. Okay.
You don't need to get fancy on the shoulder day.
You got to tell everybody what you're talking about because they're gonna be like, "What's he talking about?"
Well, it's simple. I moved to South Carolina. That's it. And I got to tell you, it is green, which I'm not used to. We have brown at home. And everything's a little slower, which I totally dig, except for the fact that people actually drive slower. Like where I'm from, when the speed limit is 45, what that means is the minimum you drive is 45, and you can go faster than that.
Right.
5, 10 miles an hour is fine. 5 is safe without a ticket. 10, you're pushing your luck. Here, it's like optional. They're like, 35 will do. I'm like, no, it will not do. I'm behind you in a big ass truck. I will push you out of the way. So
right.
I'm gonna have to work on the city and get them to understand that even though I don't really have anywhere to be, I like to get there quicker.
You still like to get there quicker. Well,
I was trying to hurry. I was post workout. I needed my food before the show. I was stressed, but we got it done.
I'm excited to hear how you I guess navigate your way through the gym selection process, and whether you wind up finding a new sort of like loyal one only home, or whether you are sort of doing what you've done in other times of your life where you have like 5 gyms and you have a back gym and a leg gym and a chest gym. So I'm interested to see what happens with that. And then also I'm interested to see how you change the gyms that you pick, because you always wind up, whenever you pick a gym and you're like, okay, I'm going to train here. It's like, you know, a few months in, the owner's like, oh, I better get a new extension, eh? And you're like, yeah.
I've already got my plan for the main gym that I like. Some pieces that I want to bring in. So I think that he'll be down, and I'm okay with splitting the price. I just need a couple pieces. So you know, I'm down to make it the world a better place. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm a saint. Is pretty much what it is.
No, that's something that you have to do. And in my years now, if I had to like move somewhere and train at another gym, I can't even wrap my head around.
Yeah, I don't think
I can't imagine not pulling the owner aside and going, hey, I'm going to bring some shit in.
Yeah, that's like my mindset. I'm kind of like, listen, I just need you to give me a little space. Like, I'll take care of it. Just let me put it right here. Yeah. This is a perfect little home for this.
Everyone else can use it. Everyone else can use it. No problem.
Yeah, so we're all good.
I've known a few guys.
You can't all have a West Coast iron. You know what I'm saying? I mean, can't all have it.
It's like Evan at, you know, the Super Gym, the powerhouse there in Connecticut. You know, there's all the pieces that, you know, Evan like told them, get this. And then the Nebula leg press that's in there is actually his, you know, it's just kind of funny.
Yeah. He's like, I would like to get this leg press. So if I just buy it, can we put it here? They're like, sure.
Yeah, I'm just going to buy it. And they're like, yeah, sure. Bring it in. And then I've known a couple people that have done that. Like I knew this guy that had a Nebula leg press. He still owns a gym. Shout out to Rob in Alberta, by the way. But he used to take that Nebula leg press to the gyms that he would be training at. So like that Nebula leg press like bounced all around the city that he's from. It was at like a few different gyms. So it's just funny, you know. Yeah. And then if he left the gym, like I don't know if he, you know, different ownership or whatever, and he decided to leave, the leg press would disappear off the floor.
Right. He's all, I had this when I came in here. This comes with me. It's very simple.
Yeah. So it's I'm excited talking about gyms because it looks like Mutant on a Mission is going to start again for me.
Nice.
So they're talking about doing a couple of Canadian spots coming up here, maybe booking some September flights. So we'll see, you know. So we're gonna figure that out. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna have to find a gym here that you can need to go to, just so I have an excuse to train with you at a gym
Yeah,
with
yeah, no,
as ease as possible.
that would be a great idea.
Did you go
How's the
to?
body
Have you
feeling?
been to? No, have you been to Boston yet to train with Jose or no?
Have I been to where?
To Boston, where Jose's at, to hit one of those gyms.
No. So Boston's one of my top American cities that I've never been to that I want to find an excuse to go to.
Well, he's got some great gyms there, man. You got to get. I'm
Yeah.
going to connect you guys because I know that the gym that he goes to, and I can't think of the name, so I don't want to be incorrect on where it's at. But I know they're down and they back Jose for pretty much anything, so that would be a great spot for you.
Yeah, I remember talking to Jose about that, and then he was going to open a gym at one point, but then COVID hit, and I hadn't talked to him since then. So I didn't because I was like, oh, I'll just do his gym when he opens it. But I don't know what's going on with that because I haven't talked to him again about gyms. So we have discussed me going out there to see him. So
Yeah,
figure
that would
something
be
out.
great. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
we got to
figure
press
something out.
that along. I mean, since I have to have a say in something because I want to watch the episode, you and Jose would be fantastic.
He's not
Guys,
tied up with.
everything I do is driven by something I want to see. So I'm like, oh, we need to do this.
Right, right. So I got a bunch of great Instagram questions. Um, I don't know if you want to pepper them throughout the episode or you want to hit them early or what you want to do.
I think we should do a little of both because I actually have that. Then we got some great topics.
Well,
Obviously,
let's do. What do you got?
the
Topics
show.
we just had a show. Okay, so let's discuss the show.
Yes, I mean, particularly obviously the men's open is the big shock. I shouldn't say shock, but the big hit of the weekend. Um, Obviously, going into the show, the assumption was that this would be the Ruley Winkler show, and then it would be interesting to see who ended up getting second place. Um, but man, talk about seeing. I think we're starting to see a changing of the guard. You know,
So I got a good question about who do you see as the real solid next generation, uh, top five at the Olympia. And
right?
like we had the old guard, and then we had another crew come through, and now who's the next one? And I think this show was a really good example of where things are headed
Yeah, for
in
sure.
pro bodybuilding. Hunter obviously. How much did he weigh? So that's the biggest I've ever seen him.
I don't think he ever said what he weighed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. Doesn't matter, but I'm just interested because the illusion. He looks huge. Looks
Right.
really good.
Yeah, he was blown away. I mean, what I loved seeing was obviously he came in phenomenal. I do have one complaint that I have to say out loud just because it bothers me. I don't like seeing edited photos be everything that these guys have access to from the photographers now. So when you see these pictures that they're posting, they're edited. They didn't edit them, but the photographers are doing it now on their own. And I don't know if you've ever shot with someone who did that. Like anytime you've ever seen pictures of me shot with like Pav, when he takes the picture, if you're watching the big screen, the picture pops and then it alters just a hair the way he has it set. So every picture is slightly altered immediately. The photographers are shooting the pro shows this way now. And I don't love it because it's not an accurate depiction of what's happening. Now, the guys are in phenomenal shape, but it's like one of those things where I'm kind of like, here we go again. We're taking what's already phenomenal and we have to up the ante because real life's not good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I I I do know what you mean. So everyone loves the dramatic photos. I get it. I get the concept of art. I love the pictures. Like if you go to Doherty's gym, the Brunswick
Mm-hmm.
location in Australia,
Yeah.
you'll see all the awesome pictures on the wall there, and they've got a very artsy, you know, look to them, and it's I'm trying to remember that that photographer's name. I think it's Charles.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know his last name, but I know exactly. He's the
He's awesome.
Australian guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I just haven't seen his Instagram come through my feed for a while, but it always used to. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he's amazing, and you know his stuff has that you know he's got those pictures of Phil and stuff walking out on stage and some like really crazy stuff on the wall there, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it's like art. It's not like
Yeah.
a documentary photo of the stage that morning. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? But I think that I mean maybe there's a room for you know an Instagram account that is just like raw front row pictures, you know, with nothing done to them, you know, and they just say these are the ones, like these are the stage pics, and everyone else
Yeah.
can, you know, share the great pics. These are just the ones with nothing on them, fucking nothing, you know, because
Yeah.
I know that the purist in me doesn't want to see, you know, photos that have obviously been improved all the time. I want also like, okay, cool, that's awesome. Make a poster, hang it up.
Mm-hmm.
But then I want to see like just the real photo, like what his glutes actually look like.
Yeah, because everything is heightened. I mean, and again, I don't want to tangent because the athletes were phenomenal, and I think that is what makes my thought process what it is. It's like these guys don't need help. Like they look nuts, and I think what sucks is the only pictures available for them to use are edited. So what's happening? Like I already knew, but then it was really driven home when I saw video because the video is the live, and I'm like, okay, see the difference? Like it's almost like we've taken it to too perfect. Oh, the lighting's not perfect. Don't worry, we'll fix that with a camera. Like,
Right. Right.
you know,
Which
so
then I
just
guess
basic.
that can then skew, you know, what people at home think who should have won the show versus, you know, what the judges actually just saw sitting at the
Yeah,
stage.
it's definitely different. And again, I mean, it doesn't, in my opinion, like with what the show, everyone looked phenomenal, but it's common. Like I'm even seeing guys. I mean, you know, I see pictures from the same show. And I mean, for those of you who don't know, the photographers have a section that they sit in. They're all sitting right next to each other. So
So so the
the
guy, sorry, I
pictures
have
should
to
look the
interrupt.
same.
I just want to interrupt. Like this photo here, it's Charles Lewithan.
Yes.
But that like that kind of legendary photo, yeah, that was him that
Yep.
took that. So just wanted to get his name right. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So I mean, what I don't, I think the issue is so of course now if I'm a competitor, and I see the regular pictures and the ones that are more enhanced, I'm resharing the enhanced ones because they look crazy. So it's like, you know, and I'm proud of my look, and that really is me. And no one, you know, we didn't add muscle or anything, but when you start changing the grain and the lighting and everything, you're definitely improving. And it does give two things. It's not a real account of what happened. And number two, when guys are getting ready for these shows that are up and coming, they don't look like that. And I think that that's a thing you got to factor in. It's like when you get peeled and you're like, man, I don't look like that on my show. It's like, number one, it's Hunter Labrado, so no, you don't. But number two,
Right, right.
it's enhanced. You know, so I don't think the best in the world need enhancing. You know, it's like baseball. You know, if the guy hits it 500 feet out of the park, we don't need to make it 600. Like it's out of the fucking park. You
Yeah.
know, so again, just a minor thing that I would like to see change because the guys were so good. And when I saw the video, I was even more impressed because I'm like, okay, this is unaltered, and they're
Yeah.
just that fucking good. I mean, the
Yeah. It
top
was a
five
great
was
show.
nuts. Um,
Yeah.
but I do like seeing, like we touched on, the changing of the guard. Like I'm starting to look, and I'm like, man, Ian, Brett, you know, Hunter, like the list goes on and on. James, where it's kind of like I think you're going to see the guys who were always in the mix that were like the guaranteed top fivers start getting bumped out. You know what I mean? I mean, seeing Rulli land
Well,
in fifth was like, I mean, even for me, I was like, all right, well, I mean, no one's beating him if he comes in on. Um,
Right.
and he would have had his hands full at his best. He wasn't at his best, but at his very, very best, I can't say for sure he would have beaten them. I mean, you're looking at them and just saying, damn. Like, particularly Brett and Hunter were just phenomenal. My selfish um, fan would have loved to see Ian in that show, just because Ian has also improved drastically since last year.
Just to
So
give
I
one an
can't.
Olympia preview.
Oh, I can't wait to see, because Hunter and Ian are kind of they root for each other, but they're definitely back and forth. So I'm looking forward to seeing who improved the most come the Olympia.
Yeah. I think that was Max Charles was at his very best at this show.
Without question. And I love Max. I don't, in my opinion, his physique is underrated. Um, and he actually mentioned, I don't know, I think we talked about this in the past. I asked him, I said, what the hell do you have to do to do better? Because I kind of feel like he gets missed. And he literally, without breaking speed, said, I have to be bigger. And
Right.
he was that. He was, look at his legs. Remember, that's the body part that he needs to bring up. Scott already tossed it up on the screen. It's like, well, he don't need to be bigger than legs than that. Like, his adductors are touching down to his kneecap.
I love how Scott threw that up. Yeah, no, he just looks great. I just liked seeing a great show where everybody was in good shape in that top group. And also, how does get Keone guy in the 212? Sorry, was it classic or 212? I don't even remember. I was so blown away. 212.
You were so thrown off by how good he is. It didn't matter. You're like, whatever.
Yeah, he just fucking
he's not human.
yeah.
he, he is definitely not human. I mean, I love his look, and
Yeah,
he's
I'm
kind of
watching
made
him right
his
now.
decisions on how to do it. You know what I mean?
Well,
Um,
didn't he get criticized because he didn't do the Olympia? Remember, everyone's
yep.
like, "Oh, he didn't do the Olympia," and he's like, "Oh, I just want to rest my body and my mind. I got other stuff I got to
Yep.
do. I'll be back." And then here he is, first show back, wins, qualify. So
When
I
he's
love
just
the fact,
nuts, dude.
you know what I mean, and maybe that's a lesson too, because we talked about this thing that bodybuilders have. A lot of the newer people feel like they have to do every show, and they're competing all the
Hmm.
time, and no time for improvement, and not taking an off season, and I sometimes feel like it's a bit of a panicky um, thing. Like they're panicked about having to do an entire prep again, so they just want to
Right.
stay in shape for the next show. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? And because the concept of like going to off season and then having to turn the ship and like get back into prep mode is it's like, some people, it's a huge deal. And I think that some people are trying to avoid that by constantly dieting. But this is a good example of people like, oh, this guy had confidence that he could take the break and it would do his body good. And he, just because he qualified doesn't mean he has to go, and he'll be back when he's ready. And boom.
Well, I think you also factor in what some people don't think of is you have a plan. He said to himself, for whatever reason, and maybe he needed a break. Maybe he said, I don't want to go until I think I can win, and I'm not there yet. I don't know what his reasoning was, but the bottom line is I would never want to start a prep that I wasn't gung ho to do. Preps are hard when you are focused and when you're excited, and when your body feels great. Now imagine entering your prep and either already having nagging injuries or mentally not being in it and thinking you're going to bring your best. That's not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, he just looks unbelievable. I love Keone's physique. Um, and I look forward to seeing him at the fucking Olympia, because it's going to be uh, he's going to do very, very well at the O. That guy.
Yeah, it's
Fuck.
it's 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 hard not to get ahead of ourselves and start talking about the Olympia, because you're seeing changes. I mean, there's so many things coming. Like, I'm actually really excited to see Derek Lunsford, because he's made the switch on his prep coach, which, no offense, but I thought for a long time, it's like, bro, and I'm all about sticking with your people and growing. But when when it's consistently not happening, at some point you have to say, you know what, we got to try something new. Hats off for the loyalty and the respect. And then, finally saying, you know what, it's time for me to try something new. And one thing I have said since I found out he went to Hani is I'm like, Hani's not going to miss. So you're going to see the best version possible. And now we can see how he hangs with the top guys. Because I think dead nuts on, the only possible thing is that he's put on too much size to still be a 212 and have balance. But if he has any semblance of it, I still think he's the guy to beat, believe it or not. I just think he's so good.
I think he's insanely good and at his very best. I can't remember what the most recent thing I saw of him was, but it was like, oh shit. Because you're right, he's been like, was it 2 Olympias in a row? He was like kind of a letdown both times. Wasn't that the last 2 Olympias?
Yeah, well, for sure. And could you imagine? I mean, you got to love it coming from guys like us. Like, you were a letdown. God, if I could be a letdown and be in the top 5.
Come in off and get
I'm one of the best in the entire world when I'm not dead nuts on.
But everybody sees it in those all the videos and pics from that green turf at MI40. Mm-hmm. That's like shit. They just, and I think I think Hani's a great guy for the job. You take a guy with that body and give him to Hani, and he knows what to do. He'll, So
I think that sometimes, I mean, and you know this as a prep coach, it's hard to work with people. As crazy as it sounds, people who are very, very genetically good, you have to make sure you keep your eye on the ball because they're so good. It's actually easy to slack up a little bit versus your clients who it's like, if you make one little error, they suck. You have to be on it on a different level. So I think that
you can't take it for granted.
I mean, look at a guy like, a prime example is Rami. How many people took a crack at him and just couldn't get the formula right? And now that we've seen him do it, I don't doubt at all that he was doing what he was told. It's just his genetics for being giant are one thing, but his genetics for coming in dead nuts. I mean, even Chad has said that as good as he was, now they know what to do, and this year will be scary. So it can be difficult as much as people don't realize that. Like, it can be hard to deal with someone who's genetically that good because it also means that tiny little things change everything.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see. But the other thing I wanted to touch on that actually I don't know if you saw it, but James Hollingshead put up a video about the traveling issues. I could not ignore that because for me it's just so what it is to those who did not see it is James is discussing the fact that in other sports, World's Strongest Man, things like that, the federations are going through and essentially handling the paperwork that needs to be done to get their professional athletes to the World's Strongest Man to compete, whatever country they're coming from and whatever country they're going to. So essentially, they're just sending the paperwork to the athletes and saying, fill this out, you're going to be good to go. Whereas in the IFBB, these guys are all on their own, essentially. I mean, I know there was some help given here and there, like with Rami and stuff, but no one's handing them the paperwork. In fact, I saw, and I'm not going to say where it was, but I guess Bonac last year had to go somewhere for 2 weeks to stay before coming to the U.S. to compete at the Olympia. He had to find his way in to get in, spend the money. You're talking thousands of dollars. And if anybody that's gotten ready for a show, imagine me just saying, okay, I'm going to uproot you for 2 weeks, take you away from all your creature comforts of your prep, your gym, your family, your bed, your drugs. I'm going to drop you somewhere else and then tell you to get ready for the biggest show of your life for 2 weeks and then get to the show. Oh, and by the way, there's going to be a financial stress. So James brought that up and I couldn't help but you want to jump in because it's like, well, other sports are doing this. They are making sure their athletes can get there. I find it a little bit disappointing with as big as the IFBB and the NPC are. Why aren't we? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, he's absolutely right. I mean, these people are running businesses and the businesses largely depend on the athletes being there to compete in the show. And it's in the IFBB's best interest to handle it. It's actually bad business to not handle it. If I was a
Right.
corporation or company and I was bringing in a guest, and I wouldn't say, okay, sort out your trip. See you when you get here. I would book
Yeah.
their fucking trip. I would handle everything.
Yeah.
That's what I did. That's what I did at Mutant with the athletes. That's why you guys all had flights that were on time and hotels to stay at and shit handled. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
No, it's
and that I can't imagine. Like look at the Olympics. How many people do you think couldn't get to the Olympics because they messed up their paperwork? Probably hardly anyone, because the Olympics, all the Olympic committees from all the countries probably did it for all the athletes.
yeah, of course. They needed
They
their
had all their
athletes there, so
information.
they knew what to do. Yeah.
Yeah, the athletes didn't. They probably just filled out a bit, or maybe they signed some stuff, and it was all taken care of. Like, you think the U.S. track and field just was like, okay, everyone go on the internet and make sure you got your shit in order. No surprises.
Yeah. We'll see y'all when you get there.
No,
Let us
U.S.
know your
track and
flight
field.
information.
Yeah, U.S. track and field was like, we're sorting this all out for you, 1,000%. You're going to be a separate lineup for you guys, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's totally right. And if the if the IFBB wants their business model to be its best, if they want the best product, then they should take interest in wanting to be involved in that process. If it's really important, you should handle it.
Well, here's how I look at it, Ron, is if your top 6 from last year's Olympia all lived in different countries, you could bet your sweet ass they'd be making sure to get them here.
Yes.
So that's the thing that, for me, and I am American. There's no problem for me to get anywhere in this country. It's simple. But I don't like that factor, because that's the tricky thing, is whether it's true or not, and I'm not saying it is, but it appears as though, well, don't worry, we have enough of the athletes here. We're good.
Right.
Like,
right.
That's
most
how
of them
it
will make it.
appears. Most of the guys that
and
are qualified live in North America, so we're good to go. And it's almost like, and if you want to get here, you'll figure it out. But I think you've got to treat, imagine on the flip, as for me, for example, as an athlete, I make my decisions based on it being a good business move for me. Well, if I got to drop $7,000 to go stay somewhere for 2 weeks, and then I got my flights there, then my flights to the U.S., then my all the things that I do pay for. If all of a sudden I've got a $15,000 expense to get ready for the Olympia, and I'm hoping to make the top, 8 to 12, I'm like, now I got to think to myself, is this a good business move for me to spend the money?
Right. Yeah.
If I'm at my best, I'm going to lose some money. Now, again, as a business, we all know that still might be a good move because it puts you on the map, but you are thinking that way. Whereas if all I had to do was arrive and be at my best, that's a lot easier, So I do feel like there's something missed there, but I don't blame the Olympia promoters, because they're, we are operating under the IFBB. We're owned by them. So help me out.
Yeah, it would be a very good idea for someone to make sure that there's help. And for those of you that are like, oh fuck, just do your own paperwork. Yeah, I get it. You're responsible. You got to have your passport up to date. Everything's got to be. You got to be a responsible traveler. But I know from firsthand experience, just recently, because Emily's actually going to Europe soon. She's going to Europe on a trip with her best friend. So looking through, like, well, what does she need to land in London? Like,
right.
What is their code? Just navigating their websites was a huge pain in the ass, and finding out it's very confusing. And one website says this, and then another website says a different kind of test is required, and it's not very clear, and it's really kind of convoluted when you're trying to figure out. And then and then she's going to another country after London, so she's got to look into that, figure out what's going on, and then oh shit, I got to book a COVID test while I'm there. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. This would easily be handled by someone with they have lawyers that can take care of that stuff so much faster than your average person applying for shit online and waiting and, you know, and you do it en masse. Like,
you're not an individual.
Yeah.
You're part of a group, and that's the big difference because it's like, no. James is coming here because he's a professional athlete. This is what he's doing. This is when he's going to be out of here. I can prove these things because, see, I saw somebody comment. They were like, well, don't you just have to get your visa? I'm like, and that can be a 6-month process.
Yeah.
So, yes, I just have to get my visa. But by the way, I won't have it by then. There are, and I mean, that's the thing people have to understand is, especially Americans, we like to think, and I put myself in this, so I'm not talking shit, but we like to think that the whole world should do things the way we do them. Well, guess what? We're actually one of the biggest pain in the ass to get into. Like, you know, other than if you're coming from Mexico, you can walk on over and we fucking feed you and put you in a hotel. But anywhere else in the world, like, we make it difficult for honest people to come in here and do business. So it's not an easy thing. So imagine a guy's qualifying for a show, you know, a couple months out. Well, based on the time it could take, it could be impossible for him to get in without help.
Right.
You know, so it's not like the athletes are just being lazy and like, oh, I don't want to do it. I want to go lift weights and eat chicken. No, it's as an individual much, much harder than a lot of people realize to make that happen.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And hey, hats off to Emily, because I can tell you right now, I've got some things to get handled in Europe as well that I want to do. And I'm not jumping through those hoops. Once things get back to normal, I'll go. I'm like, nah, I don't want it that bad. I'm good.
I'll be there soon enough. Yeah. Was that both topics you had?
Yeah.
Is that all the topics you had?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. I'm going to do some Instagram questions because I got some good ones.
True Nutrition has supported our programming now for a number of years, and I'm super grateful for it because they believe in us and I believe in them. I'm sure you guys have heard of Dante Trudell. We talk about him on the shows. He had a vision of offering high-quality, third-party tested supplements at a fair price. They have a ton of different protein powders, just about every type you could think of, literally thousands of flavor combinations. Hit me up if you're interested in suggestions. They offer health supplements. I use their collagen and their fish oil. And of course, they offer performance supplements. You can get bulk EAA powder or beta-alanine. You can also get finished products like the Mountain Dog Perry MD Intra Workout. If you shop with True Nutrition and you use our code THINK, you'll get some additional savings, you'll get high-quality supplements, and you will support our programming. You can also help to support the shows through Patreon. I appreciate everybody who's made a contribution. You guys are helping to keep me pumping these podcasts out. I have links to everything in the description. Check them out. Let me know what you think, and let's get back to the program.
Get rolling.
Which bodybuilders look drastically more impressive in person compared to pictures? Do you ever remember that?
Oh, I mean, some of these will blow your mind. Marcus Rule is one who is nuts in pictures, but even more insane in person.
Yeah.
You know, and I know you knew Marcus in his prime as well. Like,
yeah. I saw Marcus at his very biggest.
Yeah, I think I saw him at 320 or 330 or something one time, and I was just like, it was unlike anything I'd ever seen because his shoulders are so wide.
Yeah, so I saw Marcus, and he looked absolutely fucking enormous, and he was wearing a football jersey. That old, what company is that? Had those
when he was
jerseys.
with,
yeah, fuck.
Was it Olymp
VPX
or?
I can't remember.
No, wasn't it like Olymp or some of them? Yeah, I remember what you're talking about, though. I could see the jersey.
Anyways, they had him in those football jerseys, and I was just like, holy shit, I just couldn't fucking believe it. And I remember I asked him how much he weighed, and he told me in kilos.
Yeah.
And I remember it was 152 kilos. And I'll never forget that because I remember I was like doing the math in my head. So it's 334. Yeah. And at like 5'10".
It looks like a box.
Yeah. I'd say so.
Wide.
What about like in shape? Like maybe like backstage or something? Is there ever any time you saw anyone and you're like, oh wow, in person they're way more impressive?
That's the thing. I mean, the names that are coming to mind. All right, I will tell you this one, and it's not it's not from me. So this isn't firsthand knowledge, but so the promoter for the Arizona bodybuilding shows, he did the USA's 1 year when Flex did it, and he said, you know, they're backstage and Flex peels down, and he remembers thinking to himself, "What is the hype about? I can beat this guy." And then he said, as soon as Flex started pumping up, he goes, "I watched him gain 30 pounds." He was like, literally, he went from like, "Oh, I can beat him," to like, "Who the fuck is that?" in like 5 minutes. So apparently,
Right.
and I'm sure more people can vouch for this, but he literally said, he was like, "Man, I've never seen someone explode right in front of me just as soon as they got a little pump." He was like,
I
it was
heard
a
the same
different
thing
person.
about Flex. I heard the same thing about him that like he was like one of those guys that looked small in his tracksuit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then the tracksuit would come off, and you're like, oh fuck. But one guy that stands out to me, and I remember him just blowing my mind. And I'd already seen, like, you know, it was my first Olympia. You know, I'd already seen Dorian and everybody, but this is my first Olympia, and I kind of got like half backstage, and I could see some of the
Right.
guys pumping up. This was 2002, and
Okay.
I remember Paco Batista
Yep.
was standing right underneath a light by a velvet curtain posing, and it looked like his coach, like some guy from Spain, was with him, and he was running through his poses. And I remember thinking, like, you know, because I'd seen Paco in the magazines, and I'd seen, you know, that he'd done like some of the other pro shows and shit, so I'd seen video clips of him and stuff, and I just thought, oh, this guy's got an ugly physique.
Yeah.
You know, like he's kind of blocky and whatever. He's, you know, freaky arms and legs, whatever. But then when I saw him in person, I just was just like dumbfounded and just stood there with my mouth open. He was just so nuts. And he was the freakiest guy in the show. And Ronnie won that show. But Paco was like the like nastiest guy there.
Yeah.
He looked fucking crazy.
Yeah, I
think
love
he got
that
like
though.
out of the top 10.
Yeah, no, he did for sure. But that's the thing is that, like, that I think is cool is that a lot of people don't realize is you can't be, and don't get me wrong, there's a genetic component to that as well. But take a guy like him that can never be a Flex Wheeler or Ronnie Coleman, but he says, well, this is what I am, and I'm going to take what I am as far as possible. It's that, and I don't know who the quote is, but I love that quote of play the hand you were dealt as if it was the one you wanted.
Right.
And I fucking love that because that is life and that is bodybuilding. Like, we don't get to decide the hand we're dealt, but if you play it to your best, and I mean, tell Ron, I mean, you, myself, a lot of people, I've beaten a lot of guys that should never beat me, or I should never beat, I should say.
Right.
Because I played my hand so well, and they had to be off. Don't get me wrong. At their best, I wouldn't win, but that's the fun is a guy like him. And like you said, I mean, how many people that met him were like blown away? I mean, when you met Ronnie, you expect it. It's like, well, you're the best.
Yeah.
Of course you look like this. You here, like you said, you were like, he's blah. And then you see him and you're like, holy shit. And you're an experienced eye. I think that's one thing that when you talk about bodybuilding, even me, I understand that your knowledge of the sport is as high as anyone's really. So I know I'm like, okay, that was nuts.
Yeah, he had the thickest adductors and glutes and hams and quad. Like, he's got those funny shaped quads, kind of, but they're just
wacky.
so like the leg from the side, like just the size of a horse's hip. You know, just fucking that crazy. The ham laying right on the calf, like just laying on it when he did the side chest, like inches of contact. Like, you know what I mean? Not just touching, but like just mashed and squishing. And I just was just over. Like, yeah, like just those things that you just don't translate into pictures. And even sometimes video footage, like you have to see you have to be there, you know, seeing it from different angles. You know, when you look at it from the angle of the pose, you don't necessarily see those little freaky details that the bodybuilder thinks is like crazy, you know, because they're not part of the pose. But, you know, you look from the behind a side chest and you see his adductor getting pushed out over top the other leg, and it's like drooping, and you're just like, what the fuck? So, yeah, Paco
It's funny that you
Batista,
said that, though,
man.
because it reminds me, and everyone's heard this, but as far as being in person, but I remember talking to Chris, and you and I've told you about this before, and I was like, man, I really thought that Nasser won the 97 Olympia. And Chris literally looked at me and goes, you weren't there.
You weren't there. Yeah.
And I was like, really? Oh. And he told me, he said, I was at the Olympias when Dorian was winning, and no one was ever close. Never. Like, so, you know, when you, especially those older ones, now the pictures, and forget about what I was talking about earlier, but the true pictures are clear and the video is clear. What you could see in the videos and pictures back then wasn't. And he was like, you don't understand. Like, in person, it was never close. So it's funny to hear that, like you said, when you see something in person versus Paco that you've seen a million times, it's a different ballgame. So yeah, off.
Okay, I got a fun one.
Shoot.
If you had to have an epic portrait painted of yourself, what mythical beast would you be riding?
Oh God. Well, see, I would. Okay, so I guess this is par for the course for me because I don't take myself seriously. God, what was it called? Now I got to remember the name. Shit. There is a cheesy movie in the 80s where the kid rides like this dragon thing.
The Never-Ending Story?
Like, yes, I would ride him.
He was like the dragon with the beard, didn't he? He was like having like, he was like a wise old dragon.
Like,
I can't.
And he was like super nice, yeah, like the most basic super cheesy thing. That would be me. I'd be like, I'm not picking some freaky thing. I'm getting this nice guiding.
I want a nice dragon. A nice dragon who knows
that guides me to stop fucking up.
Yeah, with some good advice. A wise dragon with good advice. I get that. That's a good one. I like that. I was gonna say, I would ride like a giant eagle or something, but I guess it's got to fly. I think there's no sense in riding a mythical beast that is restricted to ground movement only. You know, like you're not gonna ride a centaur.
No,
you're not gonna ride like a minotaur or whatever. You know what I mean? You're not gonna ride any sort of like, unicorn beast or anything like that. You want to be able to get airborne, especially because mythical beasts sort of make me feel like there's also people shooting arrows at me at some point, and I might need to get out of there.
But you need to be able to get up for sure. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So I would fly on, some sort of bird. I'm just trying to think of maybe an exact one from a movie. I don't know.
I definitely like your assumption that because you're on a mythical beast, there will be arrows shot at you. or I'll put a basket on my BMX bike and I put ET in the basket, and he could make my BMX fly. Does that count as a mythical beast? It's kind of pushing it. I'm kind of pushing but it puts you on your bike, so you're at home. I get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I definitely understand that. That makes sense to me.
Okay. Here's another one. Very important. If you're training,
I love the important ones.
If you're training and you need to pee, do you wash your hands and then pee, or do you just wash your hands after you pee? So do you wash your hands twice, or do you just wash them afterward?
So I think that's a great question. But here's the key. I only wash afterwards. And it's okay if a little fella is dirty because he's getting washed later. I'm not handling him and then touching my face or anything. So I'm not really concerned. Right.
Yeah.
Here's the fun thing. Like you know this is true, but you have to laugh about it because it sounds very sensible. Like, well, you're going to go touch your shit and then cool. Well, do you wash your phone when you're done training? You've been touching the gym and touching your phone the whole damn day.
Right. Exactly. People don't understand that bacteria is absolutely everywhere, and they get really fussy about certain things, and they completely forget other things. So, like, there was this woman
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that in that, you know, it matters to the story that she was a woman, but she was a woman. And she was complaining about something to do with wiping equipment.
Right.
And then I realized she's one of those people that puts her phone on the ground. And I'm sorry, if you put your phone on the ground, nothing else matters. Literally.
Yep. Yeah,
nothing matters. Don't even care about equipment handles. Don't worry about dumbbells. If you touch your phone and you put it on the ground, then there is nothing that you should be worried about. It's your germs are everywhere. You're putting them all over you know what I mean? Because the phone is the worst thing. So, but to answer the question, sometimes I wash my hands before I take a piss. If I'm like, I don't know, if I feel like there's chalk over my hands or something, I might do that. Right. But I'm also using
sometimes.
Sorry?
You don't feel like you might need extra grip, and that chalk could come of handy while you're handling
Could come in handy. But and then also too, I'm also I am a hand sandy guy. So like I use hand sandy a couple times. And what I do is I squirt hand sandy on my hand, and then I rub my phone like this in my hands.
Right.
And then it's clean. But so since I use hand sandy, I don't feel the need to like frantically wash my hands if I take a piss, but I definitely wash after.
You know what's funny is I actually, and this is for a different reason, but I wash my hands after, but I actually like to put on the hand sanitizer also after I'm done washing, because my hands always feel like too smooth when I'm done washing them and I need to go touch the bar and be gripping. And the hand sanitizer feels like it dries them out because of the alcohol. So I always put a little bit of that on real quick too. And like, all right, let's dry these fuckers out. We got work to do here.
It's like poor man's chalk.
If somebody saw me, if somebody saw me, they would think that I was uber clean. It's like, no, it's not that. I'm a pig.
Oh, like you wanted some on the hands.
Yeah, or that I wanted to make sure my hands were really clean. I didn't trust the soap alone to do the job. Oh, this is a good one. I want to read it the way it was written. If you was a ghost, what celebrity would you haunt?
If I was a ghost?
You're a ghost. You got to haunt a celebrity. Yes.
Hugh Hefner.
And just like that, I don't even want to answer anymore because you had the best answer. I'm done.
Because you get to live in that house. Yeah, I know the Playboy Mansions. The Playboy Mansion is a little bit like Golds Venice. It's way past its prime. The party isn't really there anymore. Yeah. But I'm sure there's still a plethora of interesting visitors and things to see. Oh. And sometimes visiting afterwards when history's already been made is also an interesting like point of view. So, you know, if I was going to haunt Hugh Hefner, and the gig's probably not that much of a commitment because he's already super old. So you haunt him and he's probably going to die in pretty soon. And then you could move on to someone else. You know, it's not like you're locking in. Like if you want to like, you know, haunt, you know, some hot young Hollywood chick, she might live for another, 60 years.
Stuck with her.
You're stuck with her.
Bored.
You know?
Yeah. Imagine this, we talk about how gyms have an energy based on what has happened in them. Imagine the energy of the Playboy Mansion. Like,
yeah, I wonder.
Do you wash your hands just by being in the room?
Or is it like the cleanest place there is? Maybe there's people just walking around just dusting constantly, wiping and dusting.
Well, there would have to be. Yeah, I mean, God only knows what's in there. Yeah, that's. I just love that you got that answer so quickly. It's not like I prepped you with this question so you could be loaded. That's just how disturbing Ron's brain is. He was like, boom, answer, done. I feel like you did a walk-off home run just now. Like, you know when Barry Bonds used to hit the ball and he would just like slowly walk because he already knew it was done? That was you when you answered that question.
I just like, Hugh Hefner, drop the bat, casual walk.
You trotted to first base and rounded the place.
And then the first baseman gave me a bro tap.
I was gonna I was gonna say Biden, but I fear that someone is already doing it based on what I see. So on to the next.
What is happening in your country? And I wanted to say this. I'm in Canada, It just seems funny. It seems like I don't know. Can I say something without any political affiliation whatsoever?
Absolutely, in my world.
I hate Kamala.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Dem. I'm not American. I don't give a shit. She just strikes me as the least genuine human being that could possibly open her mouth. And there's nothing. And like, I'm not affiliated, so I'll give everyone a chance. I'm like, let me hear what you have to say. I'm like, oh, you're a complete fucking waste. I hate you. Yeah. She's a piece of shit.
You know how dogs can sense shithead people. Dogs don't like her, for sure.
Dogs wouldn't even like her. No.
Donna would
but
walk
I think
away
everyone
and be like,
I think everyone on that side knows it. I think everyone on that side knows it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I don't think that anyone's defending her anytime soon.
No, and I have friends that are friends that are actual, they're like, I'm a Democrat. You know, like they're registered or whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't like her. They're like, I hate Kamala. I can't believe that we went with her, but she's here. So yeah, they don't like her. So it's not like I'm biased or anything. I got a good one here.
Shoot.
What is a topic you and Dusty strongly disagree on?
Man.
I'm trying to think of like things that have come up that we've disagreed on. I can't.
I mean, the only thing that I can hear, the only thing I can think of, and I hate to use the word strongly, but I don't like sci-fi at all.
Right. Yeah. You're not a sci-fi guy at all.
So, I mean, that's about as good as I can. Strong disagreement. Like, I can't imagine. I don't think I could appreciate, because I don't like sci-fi, all of the greatness that are in, some of the series that are the best, most well-known in the entire planet ever. But I mean, I hardly call that a disagreement. I'm trying to think. I think, the problem is with you and I, Ron, is neither of us speak in absolutes either, overall.
So that's something that I find, when I'm going through YouTube and I flick through political stuff. Like I'm trying to see, what's a good show? Is this worth getting, these guys have a fair perspective of what's going on? How biased is this? And I found a few channels that I like to check out for kind of the what's going on in the world and what's the latest. And I find that the people that I tend to gravitate towards are people who don't speak in absolutes. They're calm and they listen to the full argument coming from the person before they don't freak out about things. They're very patient. They're like, interesting. I really have a hard time with that and I disagree, but we could discuss that. They're that type of person. They're just rational and calm and not speaking in absolutes. I am repelled by people who make claims of all sorts. When people start making claims that they know things or have solutions, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Who are you? What, let me, seriously, like, let's see what you've done. Like, are you even supposed to be speaking on this subject? Do you have any real expertise? I'm one of those people. And I find that you're sort of similar. So it makes it rare that we would have like, a yelling match at the table over a steak.
Careful. Steaks are dangerous. I got to really.
Did you just say Trump's tweet was funny? I can't believe you would think Trump's tweet was funny.
It is accurate though, because that is I do find and you and I, that's the problem, is it's not that we don't have differing views on things here and there, but I've had things where, like you said, I can be educated by someone who sees something different than me. And there are points where and I can't think of it off the top of my head. I was trying to think of something where, here's one. I am a huge believer in progression, progressive overload, obviously. But the reason for that is I typically deal with athletes who are in the infancy stages, and that is all they need for change. All they need to change is to get progressively stronger at the basic things. But I can listen to John Meadows tell me all I need to do is see change in the gym, and I can train a different way every single day. And I'm like, yes, you can. And that absolutely works, and it absolutely is a functional thing. But if someone were to say to me, okay, now that you've admitted that, would you give that to a novice lifter? And I'd say absolutely not. They're not experienced enough to know how to push and to do things, so it's not the time. I'm waiting because I have some athletes that have asked me for changed training programs, and I'm like, you don't need it. You need to get stronger. And I'm now waiting for them after our last episode with John and with me agreeing with him for them to call me and be like, but you said I didn't need change, and then you just said with John, I was like, you don't.
So the big thing there is the context. And I think that one of the things that generally has polluted our discourse and our society in general has been the trend to ignore context. Right. And when you ignore context in any situation, it can be disastrous because context can be everything. Yeah. And when people start saying, "Oh, he said a word, so therefore he needs to lose his job,"
yeah,
and it's like, well, did you hear the context of why the word was said? Was he explaining the word to somebody? Was it like who was involved in the conversation? Were they okay with how what he said was presented? If no one in the room had a problem with the conversation, why should that guy lose his job over how the words look on a printout? It's like,
right.
Can you imagine taking fucking Dave Chappelle's stand-up, printing it out word for word, and then just having some lady read it?
Oh God, yeah.
How funny would that be?
That's a perfect example. Yeah.
It's not comedy. It's exactly what Dave said, but it's not fucking comedy. And that's what context is. And so when we're talking about anything, whether it be training programs or nutrition or drugs or politics or what came out of someone's mouth or what someone did in 1989, we have to look at the context. And I mean, sometimes you look at the context and it's even worse. Right?
Yeah, very, very true. And tone and things like that. I've told athletes, I just had a guy last night. I work with a lot of athletes who are, middle-aged men. They've lived, they've earned respect, and sometimes they do stupid ass shit from a bodybuilding standpoint. And I will literally say to them in text, because I hate when you can't read tone, I'm saying, hey, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm not talking down to you, but let me explain this to you. And I'll literally say, because you can't hear my tone, and when you read this, it might sound like I'm coming at you. And then lay down the point of, if you're cheating 3 days a week, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
But just because, you know what I'm saying? If I just type that up the way I would say it to your face with a smirk or with with tones, it's like, okay, the guy might read it and be like, who the fuck are you? I'm a 47-year-old man. I'm not about to be told that. You know what I'm saying? So like you said, context, tone, things like that matter. So, but it is an interesting thing because you're right. Like I literally I will have this week, someone will reach out to me and be like, hey, you said I didn't need to do all these other exercises. And I'm like, I got to explain. So, good stuff, man. All right, let me get back to this list here. Don't care. I'm still holding all my crypto. You crazy? Ooh, this is important. See, I love when I get these people that understand what we need to know. This is easy for me, but here we go. Fuck, marry, kill. Weed, shrooms, alcohol.
Oh, kill alcohol. I don't need it at all.
Done. Don't care.
I would marry weed. And I guess shrooms would be the fuck. Yeah. Yep. Even though it's been, a long time.
We're going long times in between. It's funny though, and
we're not killing them. We're not killing them. We just
yeah. Well, because
that's an easy one.
Low dose shrooms, like microdosing, you don't notice. I mean, as far as you don't feel it. Whereas if you were to smoke weed every night, like even though you've got even though you have a tolerance, you definitely get an effect from it every single time. And I would not want to be taking 3 grams of shrooms every day. Just
Right.
I'm good. I'm good on doing that. Basically like most sex lives. Once a month. And I'm with you. Like alcohol, I could. I mean, and I drink wine, but it's like literally to give you an idea with the move and everything. I gave my mom like 20 bottles because I didn't want to deal with having them shipped, and I haven't had it in weeks, and I'm fine. I don't care. It's fine. No big deal.
I just was never a drinker.
I never had them. I drank a ton when I was young, before it was legal, and I didn't care after that.
So I got a good one that we kind of touched on for a second there. Since Golds Venice era is over, because I think we can all admit that the Golds Gym Venice era is over, and I think that COVID was the nail, the hammer drop. Yeah. COVID was like done, because when COVID hit, even like Brad Rowe left, he was one of like the reliable pros hanging around. Dexter, all the guys, it's just, what do you do? So it said, since the Golds Venice era is over, where is the current bodybuilding hotspot?
See, I think this is where it gets tricky, because there's lots of them. I mean, and there really are. Number one, I hate the word Mecca. If we could stop using that now, that'd be great. Because it's like everyone's got a Mecca. Like, my house is the Mecca of this point, and I just pick a really small point to make it the best one. But like off the top of my head, I mean, if we're talking about North America, I would have to say Steve's gym. Weinberger's gym would have to be my spot. But again, I say that based on, and this is oftentimes the case with the gym, unlike Golds Venice, is the owner. I mean, everyone wants to go there. And if I went to Steve's gym, I'd want him to destroy me on my posing and tell me I suck. I would still want to do it. I would love to train in there, just because I have the utmost respect for him and the fact that he built a gym that caters to athletes of all types. But bodybuilding was definitely one of the giant focuses when he built that place. But again, that's if I had to name one, because literally as I'm saying it, I'm thinking Armbrust in Colorado. I'm thinking, you know what I mean? Like the list goes on and on and on. I mean, Flex just opened his gym, and I've trained there, and it's in its infancy, but I mean, hell, half of California moved to Vegas and are training there.
Yeah, it's my answer is that there won't ever be another Golds Venice. So what that was the result of bodybuilding being a tiny little cult sport, or not even sport, tiny little cult activity that in the 70s happened to have an epicenter there, because of like Weider and everybody. So
to be known, you had to go there.
Yeah, that was just part of the infancy of bodybuilding, and the roots got really strong and the tree got really big, and so it stood for a while, even though they didn't need to. Like Golds Venice wasn't required anymore after the 90s, but it was still, because it still had all the the roots and everything. So, but there were good gyms everywhere. There was places, because there was actually a point in time when like if you were a bodybuilder, like you had to, like, there were no other bodybuilders, right? But now there's bodybuilders everywhere, and there's good gyms everywhere, and now like the real gyms are making a comeback. There's all gyms opening up, where they're not using the word fitness, and they're, it's their gym, or their, whatever, Iron Asylum, or there's all these like cool places popping up where people can go train, and they're welcome to train hard. So I don't think Golds Venice, now there's hundreds of millions of people that are living a bodybuilding lifestyle, eating prepped meals and doing, workouts and wearing Fitbits and the whole thing. And I don't think that there'll ever be another Golds Venice, because it's not required. You can do this anywhere in the world now. And there's good facilities everywhere in the world now. And there's, a gym with a great leg room pretty much everywhere in the world now you can go train legs at, like that sort of thing. So,
Sure.
it's the end of an era and like the end of a model,
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and
That's
I
my
think
take.
that they got. I think the guys who own Golds Venice, they're getting away from it for the same reason that we're sad to see them get rid of it. Is they need
Yeah.
to adapt. I think the business model. Harvey, are you serious? Harvey's in the show today.
Yeah.
In case you guys were
That's
wondering.
okay.
It happens.
And
It happens.
to match up what you said, if I had to pick, like, well, where's the Mecca now? I mean, Steve Jim for the last while has been, to me, more of a centerpiece than Golds Venice. So
For sure.
I've considered Steve's, like, because of Steve, like, and then you mentioned Armbrust Gym, and there's a bunch of great places that are still holding up the focus of what they were during the Golds Venice era. But now things, there's be a lot more places you could train anywhere. Obviously, there's going to be these gyms that have more of an atmosphere, and that's usually because of the owner, right? Like, people go to Armbrust because of Dylan. Like, they're like, oh, I'm going to go to his gym. I know that he gives a shit, And
For sure.
And same with Steve, and same with all the good gyms. So, yeah, I just like to see big corporate clubs lose members
Just
to
annihilated.
gyms.
No, so do I. And but you know what's funny is you nailed it. Is Lance that owns Muscle Factory in Tempe where I train. He was looking at another gym, and I told him, "Don't you dare." I was like he was going to buy another facility, and I was like, "No. This gym can't. It will not be this gym if you're not here every day." Like, he really he over credited us for the gym, and I'm like, "Well, this is you. Like, you're here all the time. You've created this thing." And no one will replace you. I mean, if you weren't at the gym all the time, I promise you, even though the equipment and everything would be what you have now, your gym would not be what it is. I mean, there's a good chance if I go to your gym 4 days this week, I'm going to see you 3 of them.
Yeah.
There's a
especially
higher
if you
odds
train it.
the higher odds that I'll see you than I don't see you. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what all the great gyms have with the best owners. Is they're there, they've got their finger on the pulse. So, plus I think the big thing you also realize when you start traveling, it was a real eye opener to me to train in Temple Gym the first time and realize that the best bodybuilder in the world trained in a gym the size of my living room.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
this is it.
Yeah. There was a lot of little things that gave that gym character.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Something about passing garbage cans overfilling with trash and hearing people's death screams from a basement was just gave me the warm fuzzies.
I like the heroin balloons in the alley.
I actually had to be guided to that gym. That the very first time I went, I was walking and looking in Birmingham, and then literally someone saw me that knew me, and they're like, "Dusty, you're looking for Temple?" I'm like, "Yes," and they just walked me directly to
It's
it.
funny,
down the
it
back
even had
alley behind the building.
And yeah, that alley, that Temple Street alley, was even cobblestone.
Yeah,
like cobblestone, which means that street was built like in the 1800s.
Yep,
or 1700s. Like, fuck, it's just funny.
Yeah,
it had a scent.
That was sad. What's crazy too is since they reopened in the new location, I never cared to go.
So here's another question.
Shoot.
What do you miss the most about being a kid?
I miss. Okay, this is going to be funny, but I miss not even processing that there could be consequences to anything I did. Like, when I was a kid, I didn't think about anything. Like, whether we're talking about accidents, getting hurt, getting arrested, like, there were no. And the sad thing for me, sorry to disappoint my mother, but that went up until I was about 17.
Right.
Consequences just didn't really register in my mind for a very long time. And you reach a point as an adult, it's funny, but I mean, I know you've been there, where I've had someone like say something and I'm like, if I punch you in the face, this could cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. I'd really like to punch you, but not as much as I like my money.
Yeah, the new me is a property owner. And
exactly.
That means that I'm worth suing. So let's not do anything.
Yeah. With a simple Google search, someone can realize roughly where you're at in the game and decide if you're worth suing if you punch them in the mouth.
Yeah, fuck. I think what I miss the most about being a kid is like video game marathons with a friend where you just you ate whatever. Like I miss not knowing what macros were and what carbs were. Like, you know, back like so early that it just didn't matter. I could eat infinite amounts of ice cream and fruit roll-ups and play Sega Genesis for like 12 hours straight. And there was no feeling of like, wow, I'm such a loser. You know, I should be doing something with my life. Sorry?
I said, isn't fruit roll-ups healthy? I mean, it's got fruit. It says right in the name.
It's got fruit, right? It's in the fruit category. But yeah, I love the not feeling guilty about just being selfishly, you know, stuffing my face with junk food and playing video games for infinite for the entire fucking long weekend or something like that. You know, you literally spend like 50 hours playing video games and eat like 2 gallons of ice cream and just be like, think that that's okay. And you can just look yourself in the mirror and you're a happy kid.
That was a good weekend.
You know,
that was a
good weekend.
That was a weekend well spent. Well spent.
It's like we finished. We rented 3 games and we finished all 3 of them. Like we were productive. Because that was how I measured productivity, right? Because if you rented a video game and you didn't finish it, it means you didn't get your money's worth. Right. So I would just
have to rent this again.
I remember my mom even saying to me, she's like, "You better finish those. If you're gonna rent 4, you better finish them." I'm like that's my mom.
Your mom supported your habits just like she does now.
Yeah. So if you're gonna do it, be good at it. You know,
that's freaking. You know, it's funny when you brought up the not caring. I went to lunch with a friend and we're getting ready to order the food, and she looks down and she sees the calories, and she was like, "I don't want to know this. Like, I prefer the denial that the Caesar salad is a healthy option before I order my meal." Like,
right. You get the burger has 800 calories and the Caesar salad has 1,100 calories.
Yeah. And we're ordering both either way, but it was a lot nicer when we pretended that the Caesar was healthy. Only funny because I've got one waiting for me because I didn't have time to eat.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. That's funny that you bring up food. What is your worst food memory?
Oh, that's easy. When I was, I could drive. So I was 16. I went camping, and which that's a nightmare all by itself. I would never do that again. I'm more of a glamper myself. But anyways,
right.
No, so I went camping with my dad, and on the way to go camping, we stopped off and got McDonald's, and I got a sausage McMuffin with egg and got food poisoning. You have not lived until you've been in the middle of the wilderness, puking your guts out the back of your truck for days. And my dad's like old school. He's like, "We're camping, bro. It is what it is. Tough it out." So I felt like death for about a day and a half in the woods from food poisoning. So yeah, you can't get worse than being in a uncomfortable place anyways while being food poisoned.
Yeah. I when I read this question, I had a memory. And then you went with the food poisoning route, and I'm like, oh God, that unlocked another memory. So I'm not sure which one I would use, but I remember I hate sour cream.
Me too. Okay? Satan's semen. Go ahead.
I hate sour cream. It's fucking disgusting. I don't want it anywhere near my food. I don't want to smell it. Hate sour cream. So I'm like 13 years old. And I'm in Greece, and we're on this island in Greece, and we're eating dinner at the restaurant in the hotel. And it's like really old school. Like the people that own the hotel cook the dinner, right?
Right.
Like they're Like it's like that's their life is that hotel, right? They do everything.
Yeah, they clean the rooms the night when you leave.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I remember like she cooks up all these half roast chickens and all this food. It was a really great meal. And I remember my dad saying, "Oh, I think they knew you were a little Western because they made it a little bit easy for you with the chicken and the potatoes and stuff, right? Instead of like something I wouldn't have known as a kid." But anyways, it cooked me up a great meal, and there was this big basket of bread, and I was eating this bread with butter on it, and it was like delicious, right? And the guy that owned the restaurant, he comes by and he goes, try the sour cream. And I was like, "Oh, that's okay. I'm good." And he goes, "No, you must try it. We make it."
Oh God.
And I'm like, "Oh, it's okay. I'm good. The bread is really good. And this butter is amazing. And I'm doing good. Like I'm really good at, I'm like, I'm not trying your sour cream." And he grabs a piece of bread and he just like dips it in the sour cream, like thick. And he pulls it out and he goes, "Open." And he just stuffs it in my mouth.
Oh, God.
And like he just stuffed it in my mouth. And I remember I just had a mouthful of bread and sour cream and I was like, And like looking back on it, like he just assaulted this kid. He like basically grabbed me by the back of the neck and just fucking jammed this sour cream bread in my mouth. And I'm like chewing it and everyone at the table's looking at me like, and I chew it and he goes, and then he goes, "Yay, it's the best," or whatever. And he walks away. And I'm just sitting there, and the bathroom was right by our table. And I was like, I'm not going to fucking make it. I can't swallow this. I was trying to swallow it and I couldn't swallow it. I was all freaked out. So I just got up and ran into the bathroom. I made it look like, I'm just getting up, going to walk, I'm all cool. I'm just, wipe my hands before I get up, put the napkin down, walk into the bathroom and just fucking puked my guts out. I puked up the whole fucking meal that I'd eaten. I puked and puked. I lost all my food. God. There was like potatoes and chicken and fucking bread and just fucking, so bad. I fucking lost it all. And I remember I went back out there and I ate like an entire basket of bread because I was fucking starving.
It was the only thing left on the table.
Yeah, I was so grossed out. I was just so upset, but I was starving. So I just went right back to eting bread and butter. And I was like,
I can't wait until somebody pulls up at your gym one day and just leaves you a container of sour cream as a gift.
I'll never forget that. And then I remember that moment. I was like, maybe I should have been more assertive and like not open to my mouth, like just.
Maybe you should have bit his finger for reaching. Yeah, pull your head back.
Yeah, it was funny because as a 13-year-old kid, I didn't know what to fucking do. And the guy was like kind of like this big Greek guy with a beard, like, "Open up,"
You weren't expecting to be forcefully fed. I mean,
no,
that guy's done other things in his life that are highly illegal. I can tell he does no issue with forcing his way. There's some women in there that also know him as well. You don't mean no, you mean yes.
Yeah,
no, so I mean no.
It was funny. I'll never forget that. But that was my worst food memory. And so now if somebody comes at me with bread, I'm like, "Whoa, what the fuck?"
What is this? What is this? Oh,
I got some PTSD. Gosh. You go ahead.
Speaking of food, what is your favorite sub shop and what do you order? It's a great question.
Favorite sub shop. So it used to be Quiznos.
I cannot believe
you know what Quiznos is?
Exact classic Italian.
Quiznos.
Run it through the burner twice so it gets extra crispy. Goddamn right, I know Quiznos.
So the Quiznos, I used to have the Quiznos double steak. I'd go in there and make my own one. I just put like a bunch of steak on it with some cheese and whatever, and do my thing and get it like really toasted. And oh man, it must have been like last year sometime. I stopped and got a Quiznos, and the fucking meat was like off. Like it was like I took a few bites. I'd already got home though, and I took a few bites, and I was like, "Oh fuck, this fucking steak is like
bad."
Off. And I was so fucking grossed out that I haven't been back to Quiznos. I had Subway a few times, but Subway's like the generic like it's usually good. You know what you're going to get, but Quiznos was better. But man, fuck, I was upset.
I used to go to Quiznos all the time. I loved it, but I did always get the look because I liked them to put it through the oven twice because I want it burnt. Like, you know, there's the black part that they say you shouldn't eat. That's the best part.
Right around the edge of the bread. Yeah, the carcinogenic carbon-based stuff.
Yeah, I remember because they would always look at me. They'd run it through, and I'm like, run it through again. They kind of pause. I'm like, one more time.
That's funny.
I know what I'm doing. I'm an experienced orderer. It's fine. But now, if I had to choose, because I haven't been in so long, I like Jersey Mike's now. They set it up right.
I don't have one here. Okay.
The only problem
here's
what's crazy though. This is what blows my mind. Do you remember that you used to get a sandwich for cheap? It's over $20 for a foot-long sandwich with a drink and a side, like, and chips.
Yeah.
They're like, or right around $20. I'm like, is it a $20 sandwich? And essentially the star of the show was bread because there's not much meat on there. I'm getting cheap, man, but I just that hurts my soul a little bit every time.
Just wait for the inflation to really hit. Next year it'll be $30 for a sub. The minimum wage will be $20, and everyone
think they're happy.
And everyone making $20 will actually be poorer than they were when they were making $15.
That's my favorite part about that argument. Everyone's like, we need to have a higher. I'm like, what do you think will happen to the price of goods? Who do you think pays for that?
How's this?
That actually happened at one point when I owned my stores where they pushed the limit. And I was like, fine, I'll just have less employees.
Right.
My business can
there's
only
a point where the math has to work, right?
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, cool. Let's, you're right. I'm wrong. Let's elevate the price to the point that you have to work more, alone instead of with a partner. Perfect. Do your thing, homie.
Right. Okay, so I picked up.
I already got one for you because this is important. Everyone needs to know. Tupac or Biggie?
For me?
Yeah.
Biggie.
All right. Okay. Why? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying why.
So I had a friend who used to play Biggie all the time in the truck on the way to the gym.
Right.
So I just have more positive memory related, brain wirings to some of Biggie's stuff. I think I've heard more of Biggie's stuff than I have of Tupac stuff.
Right.
And there's a lot of Tupac songs that I've heard. They kind of have like almost a bit of a slow R&B kind of beat.
Right.
And I don't really dig R&B shit at all. I kind of hate R&B swing, and I don't like R&B beats. I don't give a shit about soul music. So anything that's got that, that sort of swing, even if the lyrics are clever, I'm kind of like, I like more aggressive beats and stuff. And I know Biggie had some of that stuff too, like I'm fucking you tonight, but that's just, that's just such a classic.
But that's gonna say, but then you factor in what was being said, and
but that was a love making song, to be fair.
Well, I mean, he obviously was professing his most classy love to a woman at that point.
Yeah, I guess. And then I remember at one point, not that I give a shit now because it's laughable, and I don't remember what year this was. I mean, this was back in the 90s because didn't Tupac get killed in 98?
He was killed in 96.
96. So this is way back when I was young, but I remember someone showed me a quote back then, it was in a magazine or an interview or something. And I remember he was like, yeah, I hate white people or something. I don't want them to fucking listen to my music or something. I can't remember what he said, but it was something to that effect. And I was like, oh, okay, well, fuck that guy then. I just won't listen to him. Done.
Yeah, done.
Yeah. So then I was like, oh, just NWA never told me to go fuck myself. So I was listening to NWA. You know what I mean? I was into gangster rap. It was just kind of a funny thing. And I was like, I don't even know if Tupac actually said that or not. Cause that was so long ago. I don't know what his actual quote is. Someone who's a Tupac fan will probably dig up the actual quote and maybe it's not as bad because of context.
Right.
Or
So
maybe
here we go
maybe
again,
it's worse.
full circle.
Maybe it's worse, right? Maybe he actually
Maybe
was
he
like, yeah,
actually
fuck
said
you,
Ron
Ron.
Partlow.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Ron Partlow's a fucking asshole. Don't buy my record. I hate that white guy. Yeah, yeah. So anyways, so
Canadian
what do you think of
farmer.
that? How does that, what do you think of my answer?
I follow it, and it's funny because I laughed when I saw the question because I was just asked this recently, but my answer was Tupac, but the reason had nothing to do with his music. It was the things that I've heard about how much he accomplished in 25 years on the planet and the amount of music he produced and all that. So again, it wasn't even about the music, because what I think was so terrible back then when they had this whole East versus West battle is all of us, suburban white kids were buying both and thought they were amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I love California Love.
Yeah. So it was kind of one of those
I,
things where I shouldn't even say it like that because it sounds bad, but basically anyone who wasn't in one of the rival gangs were listening to both. Like, so it was just one of those things where you're like, I don't see the pull, but I remember just being blown away by once I learned, and this was probably 10 years ago, which would be years and years after his death, was finding out all the things he did. And then he was the first person to ever have a number one hit in the Billboard while serving a prison sentence.
Yeah. So the thing about Tupac that I respect is how he kind of stood up for himself and fought the legal system and with all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that stuff was before the time, you'll laugh, and this is not a question, but so while driving across country, we started doing the, play old music and then you have to know who it is game. And all I could think of is I finally just said, I wish Ron was here, because not only would he know the answer, but he would tell you who was playing the bass and what year it came out and why it was not the year you thought it was.
I got the
guy just knows things that people don't know.
Well, I didn't know Tupac's death year. I thought it was 98. Okay.
Yeah, see, but I think that one is because I was living in Arizona, so I was really close. And I remember it was kind of like when Kurt Cobain died. Like, I can remember where I was when I heard it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it sounds crazy. Yeah. His was more because I was a skater kid, whatever. But I remember, like, just like 9/11, I remember where I was standing when I heard that he had committed suicide. And I'm like, what I'm saying?
I walked into the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the morning I was listening to In Utero in my truck. So I was like listening to Nirvana on the way to the gym. And I got to the gym and I got out and walked in the front door, and my friend worked at the gym. And I walked right in. He looked right at me. He goes, Kurt Cobain killed himself today. And I was like, what? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, isn't it whack? I remember that was the first experience in my life where all the people I knew were impacted by it. Like, people crying that had never met him before. And it was just like, wow.
Yeah, I remember it was also the old news. Like, back in the mid-90s, like the only news you had was like every gym just had like a TV that was just always running the news all day. Like airports have CNN, right? And you just had like the news on, and it didn't matter what channel you were on. It was just Kurt Cobain's vigil all day. They kept changing the camera. Let's go have a look at Kurt Cobain's vigil. And it's like pouring rain, and everyone's standing in the park in umbrellas, and they're all crying, and people are like, thousands of piles of flowers all around the place, and everyone's standing outside his house. And it was like on the news, like there was nothing else going on that day.
Yeah. The world stopped for that day. Yeah. So it was the same thing I experienced last year with Kobe. Being in LA when that happened you weren't there that trip, but that was wild, man. Cause we were also downtown. I mean, we were across the street from where the Lakers played. So when we came out the final day, there were crowds of people in a vigil that had started. And it was just amazing to me to see that some celebrities can have that impact. You know what I mean? It's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. An entire city. We haven't done a training one yet.
What is that?
Just kind of got off. You want
to talk about bodybuilding? I thought if we're going to do it's just bodybuilding, do we have to talk about bodybuilding? Because so far we haven't even grazed it.
That's so funny.
You
The
could tell
funny
that
thing
we
was,
were
is
ready for the other things.
I didn't get many training questions today. I got one on, let's just bang them out. What's the best way to bring up my rear delts?
Oh, I mean, my favorite movement, if I had to pick one movement, credit John Meadows, thank you, is the incline dumbbell swings. I love those. I see them
So,
done wrong all the time, but
right.
but done correctly, where you hang off and let your arms literally pull forward as far as they can, almost like you're letting them dislocate. Um, and grabbing. I mean, usually what I tell guys to do is grab about double what you can actually do a rear lateral with, and slow, controlled move them, never letting them touch. That's the other thing is, like, so we do sets of 50 with those, and if they touch, that rep doesn't count.
Right.
And
It's
I know
you're
a lot of
essentially
people.
you're essentially
Go ahead.
stretch loading the rear delts, massively stretch
Yeah.
loading them. Yeah, through a
I
shortened range.
love that movement, man. Like, truthfully, if I had to take one direct rear delt movement, that would be it. Which is wild because I would have never guessed that, and I don't think that that's the case for most people. But I love that movement for sure. How about you?
My answer is that most people aren't using their rear delts properly. I don't think.
No, rhomboids,
And that's the
traps.
so like the rear delt machine they're using, or the cable they're using, or the dumbbell they're using, would be far more productive if they just found their rear delt. You know what I mean? Like I see the lat and the trap, and I mean, obviously your scaps are going to move. Like there's going to be some scapular movement. They can't be locked down. That's unrealistic. Everything moves together. But
Right.
it's the degree. Like, are your traps doing a full range of motion, or are they just like moving enough that your rear delts can? The rule is the muscle that's doing the largest range of motion is doing most of the work. So
Right.
if your rear delt's only moving like a bit in reality, but your scap is moving a lot, then there's a problem. But if your scap's moving a bit and your rear delt's going through a full range, you're fine. And
Right.
you have to get your form down. I mean, bent dumbbell laterals, like standing bent over ones, because you can do strict reps and then you can do some cheat reps. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you can
Oh,
push
yeah.
your set. You push your set way beyond failure because there's a safe cheat rep there for you to do. Like, some exercises aren't safe to cheat on and others are. And bent rear delt laterals, I mean, keep your core tight. You can fucking swing another 6-10 reps out if you want. So they're a good one to go ape shit on. And I did that a lot when I was young. But yeah, I mean, I like your heavy swings. I like everything that you said. But yeah, I think most people just aren't using their rear delts.
Yeah, no, and you're definitely right. That's the case with almost every lateral movement there is.
Yeah.
You know, I think the things that look to be easy are the ones that people make mistakes on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, lateral's a big one. Okay. If you had to change your first name, what would it be?
I already did. My born name was Dustin, but it felt super official to me, like classy and like something that someone would have a legitimate career with, not be a bodybuilder. So I was like, this isn't going to work for me.
Oh, so you
Okay.
did legally change it?
Yeah. I couldn't.
So-
Dustin just
so-
didn't work for me. I mean, no, but it's
Okay,
still. I mean, I didn't legally change it, but it's to the point where I have to remind myself when signing legal documents.
Okay,
Actually, here's the
okay.
thing: I sign my name Dusty on legal documents, but I write it in as Dustin because nobody verifies
So
the spelling of a
here's a
squiggle.
funny fact. Someone actually just asked me the other day if your name was Dusty or Dustin, and I said, I think it's Dustin, because I remember seeing Dustin on like your Mutant contract.
Right.
So I wasn't wrong, but you do totally go by Dusty then.
Yeah, like I never, like I said, I mean, other than an absolute legal document, even when I go to hotels or whatever for that kind of stuff where it doesn't really matter, I'm Dusty.
Okay, what
But
if
as
you
far
had
as
to change it?
changing
What
your
if you had
name,
to change it?
well, I've also already done that because of ordering. When I order food and I say Dusty, it fucking derails people. They can't handle it. So my food ordering name is Steve because people accept it. They will write down Steve. They know how to spell it, and they will call my name correctly every single time. So yes, when I order takeout, I am Steve. And actually, it only bit me in the ass once. I was on the road and I was Steve, and I went to pick up my order, and the kid behind there kind of goes, "Oh my God, Dusty Hanshaw." And he's like, "I don't see your order." I'm like, "It's Steve." And so he was like, I was like, long story, just give Steve his order. I gotta.
He probably thinks that you think you're so famous you have to use a fake name.
He's like, I always liked that guy, but now he's a douche.
It's like, you know, like George Clooney orders pickup. He's like, George Clooney. And they're like, oh my God, George Clooney's coming in to pick up his food. You know, and there's a big group of paparazzi there. He's probably thinking Dusty thinks he's so famous that he's got to
my ego is so inflated. You know, it's funny though. So Ron, that came up because of a video we did. So it's on tape. A lot of people who listen to this will know what it is. I was ordering food from a Burrito Express, and Todd was filming, and he's filming me order. And I told him what I wanted, and they were like, "Can I get a name for the order?" I said, "Dusty," and I said, "Dusty." She goes, "Steve," and I'm like, "Yep, Steve." And I just went with it. I was like, "Fuck it, I'll be Steve." So it became permanent because I did realize when she said that, I was like, you know what, Steve works. So there's my answer. Right. How about you? Your answer can't possibly be as messy as mine. Go ahead.
No. So fun fact. My mom had a name that she wanted to give me, but my dad wasn't into it, so they didn't use it. Then there was another name that made the final list, and it was the final two, and they went with Ron because my dad's name is Don. My name will be Ronald, same middle name. So, you know, and right. There was already a Ronald in the family, like generationally before. So, you know, it was kind of went with that. So the name that my mom wanted to give me was Ace.
Ace.
So
I'm actually down with Ace. I'm down with Ace.
Yeah.
Your mom and I have the same style.
My mom, you know, she was born in 1940, so, you know, World War II kid, right? But she liked the name Ace. And then the name that made the final list was Lee.
Lee.
So I was almost a Lee.
Lee, Ron. Isn't it funny how names used to be? Now we just name our kids like random shit, like Apple. Like, your name is Apple.
Yeah.
The fuck?
Or what is that? What's what did Elon Musk name his kid? Like, it's like some mathematical symbol with a number. XPI 974, whatever he named his kid.
Yeah. It's like you're setting your kid up to get his ass kicked in school when you start doing shit like that.
He probably bought a star. He probably purchased the rights to a star that's named that, so his kid has a star named after him. It's probably connected to something.
He named his kid after a star instead of naming a star after his kid. Elon's so smart he didn't understand how it works.
If you had to design a quad workout with only 3 exercises and you had to use it for your entire career, what would you set up? If you only had one quad workout and you just had to progress on it in one way or another for the rest of your life, what would it be? So you got to think of everything. You can't just think of exercises that you like now. You got to think of how long you have to do them for, wear and tear, all that stuff.
That's the thing. So that's where it becomes easy. So for me, first, which will shock people, would be leg press, because I think it's a versatile movement. When you're injured, you can typically leg press. You can find a way to leg press. Even when my joints are bothering me, I'm like, oh, go to the leg press. We can leg press. So that would be the movement. One I would leave out, which will shock people, is hack squats, because I know that I hate to use the word, but as my time in the gym continues, I will use the hack squat less and less, because it is just ruffling of joints. I would use a pendulum because I have no issue at all with that. Again, versatile because I can move my feet up and down to adjust. And then the one that would throw people is Bulgarian split squats. I hate them. They would be in the mix. I think that's probably the most painful movement I do. And that is my version. So here's the thing. By the movements I've used, I can do things like imitates what I feel on a sissy squat, things like that. I hate extensions unless I'm using the I think is it Prime that uses that as a good extension?
Sorry?
Is Prime the extension that you have that I love?
Yeah, the plate loaded one. Yep.
Yeah, that's the only extension in the world that doesn't hurt me. So that's why you did not hear the word extension put on my list, because it's literally the only one that's worth a shit, in my opinion.
Well, I would go. I mean, if I had to be a bodybuilder and I could only pick three exercises for quads, I would probably just hack, press, and extension. And
Right.
I like the Bulgarian split squat thrown in there, but I guess I sort of thought of that as like, well, all you need is a dumbbell, so you don't need to buy a machine for that. So,
Right.
but yeah, another thing about Bulgarians is Bulgarians would also fulfill the requirement to load the quad under a fixed hip, because that back leg, you get a lot of rectus femoris activation in the back leg when you start to approach failure on your front leg. The back leg really has to kick in to drive you up and stabilize you. So at least you got that, because that rectus femoris needs to be locked down to be really truly loaded. And and that's why you need a hip extension, like a squat movement in your quad workout. You can't be all leg presses, because the rectus femoris isn't stretch loaded on a leg press.
It never gets there, not even close. Yeah,
and it still does a lot of work. On the final, especially if you band the leg press and make the top heavier, like what I mean. You band up to make the top heavier or whatever. The rectus fem gets more activation near the lockout, so that helps. But yeah, you need a squat movement and you need a fixed hip, so like a sissy squat or an extension, or Bulgarians with the back leg, but you need something in there to get complete quads. So that's just how I'm thinking.
Right.
With my,
I agree.
Yeah, that'd be what I would do. We got time for one more?
We do. We have just enough time for another one. Do you have it?
Okay. Yeah, I got two, but I'll save the one for me, because it's. Though I got one that's movie related. I don't know if you want to do it or not.
Yes, I do.
So we've talked about this before, but I guess they want clarification. Best and worst Tarantino movies. So we haven't talked about this topic. We just talked about Tarantino movies. But saying worst. If you had to pick a best and worst.
Damn. I have a hard time with worst. I mean, best for me, and this is, and I don't even know that it's definitely the best movie, but it's what introduced me to Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. So that's kind of like, I don't even know that I would say it's the best, but it's the best for me because of that. You know what I mean?
No, it makes sense. Pulp Fiction is also the most watchable repeatedly.
True.
Tarantino isn't making. He never intended to make like easily digestible, like, put it on in the background. Like, it's not like Wedding Crashers or something. You just throw it on at a party and people can just like casually watch 5-minute snippets of it and have a laugh. His movies are made to be watched, from beginning to end and listened to, and all the dialogue heard and all that stuff. So Pulp Fiction is probably my favorite. I think it's probably his best movie. Obviously, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is kind of what, everyone's saying is his masterpiece. But that's from like a filmmaker point of view. Pulp Fiction is the best because it's the most watchable repeatedly. And it also presents every single person who sees it is like, oh, wow, that was something else. Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot in there. If I had to pick a worst, which you know which one you would go with?
No, I'm literally cheating because I'm looking to see what the options were, because all that jumps in my head are the really good ones.
So I've liked all of his movies, and I purposely rewatched a few of them lately because of the Joe Rogan interview. And one of the ones that I rewatched was Death Proof.
That's so funny. I just looked at it.
Yeah. So rewatching Death Proof was really interesting because it was super fun to rewatch after hearing him talk about it, and about how he made it and why he made it, and what they did with the stunts and the cars and all that stuff. So it was really cool to rewatch it with a lot more appreciation. But at the same time, I know that he was purposely making a genre movie. It's a 70s grindhouse, essentially a slasher flick.
Right.
So most of the female characters in it are written with a genre in mind. So they're not realistically speaking. It's
Right.
very self-indulgent. A lot of the dialogue annoyed the shit out of me, especially the scene where they go to test drive the car. There were so many things in that conversation. Some of the dialogue drove me fucking crazy rewatching it. But
Right.
I knew that it's not because Tarantino doesn't know how to write a script. It's because he purposely wrote them that way. Because the
Right.
movie makes you anxious. You're like, fucking get to the point. Like, right?
I
Like
love your
they're
breakdown 'cause it's
fucking
accurate.
nattering. They're nattering on about nonsense, and you're like, just fucking you're here to test drive the car. Just fucking test drive the car. Like, I remember being super annoyed with them during that scene, and I was like, Tarantino wanted me to be annoyed with them.
Yeah, that was by design, right?
It was by design. So if I had to pick a worst, I guess I don't think I could watch Death Proof again. It would probably drive me crazy because I watch it
Right.
to appreciate the stuff, and now the next time I watch it, the dialogue would just drive me crazy.
Right. Just piss you off instead.
Just get to the fucking point. Why are they nattering on about stupid shit? Yeah, but their characters were exactly what they were supposed to be. So that's like kind of the genius thing.
And I can see that because that would be, that is what you're telling me, and I don't remember, quite honestly, but what you're telling me could be enough for me to turn a movie off. Because I'm like,
right.
I can't.
Like, but after hearing him talk
I could pull
about
the
it,
mulligan and call it a day.
Yeah,
like,
it's just funny because I knew.
Don't worry, Quentin, I know you're good.
I knew. I remember thinking like, wow, he's manipulating me emotionally right now.
I now know most of his personal life because this is what he knows how to do.
Yeah, and I think the anxiety that the annoyance almost makes the violence that comes later like more tense. Like the car chase, it's crazy. Yeah. And so it's hard to say it's the worst because there's such awesome car chases in it, but it's just I couldn't watch it again. It would drive me crazy. So
no, I follow you. Okay. Plus, it's also hard to make it the worst because you know that even the things that you were bothered by, you're sitting there going, but I respect you because you did it on purpose.
Yeah, you were fucking with me, essentially. Yeah. Okay.
Classic.
Well, Dusty, we killed a couple hours, it looks like. We did all right.
Yes. We did all right. We got you guys through 3 or 4 cardio sessions.
And, awesome that Meadows episode, we got that out, kind of snuck that out as like a bonus episode after we told everyone it wasn't going to happen. So I'm really glad that people went and listened to the audio, and I'm glad it didn't get wasted because the people that really want to hear what John has to say, it's right there for them. So super happy about that. Okay, Dusty, remember everyone, like, share, subscribe, repeat, ring the bell. And I'm looking forward, Dusty. Keep me posted on the gym situation this week, and where you wind up, becoming an investor, and and exactly how this goes, or whether you add another 2 carports to your garage and do the Dusty Hanshaw home special. So
which
we'll
is a very
figure it out.
Strong possibility.
Okay, I heard land is a little cheaper there than Arizona. So maybe you
Just
can pick up a little place for yourself, Okay. Thanks, buddy.
Good job, man.
Everybody, it's just bodybuilding.